This video picks up immediately after the release of Steamboat Willie and will culminate in the release of Snow White. If you wish to catch up on the Disney lore up until then, the link's in the description. You can also browse my channel for other movie content, which I highly encourage. Once Steamboat Willie exploded into the world, Disney was officially a serious contender in the world of animation, and he was just getting started. He continued the momentum of Steamboat Willie by creating short musical films. Between 1929 and 1939, Disney pushed the boundaries of animation with his silly symphonies that numbered 75 in total. With their success, Disney was able to scale the size of production with a bigger studio and a larger staff to fill it. On top of that, with the money he was making, he kept reinvesting it into his animators by having them go back to art school. And so, in 1932, a big breakthrough happened. Disney Studios released its first ever cartoon in color, Flowers and Trees. This achievement was so revolutionary that it won an Oscar at the 1933 5th Academy Awards for Best Short Subject in the cartoon section. In 2 years' time, Disney already had 4 Oscars, one for Flowers and Trees, one for Three Little Pigs, and one for The Tortoise and the Hare. The 4th was an honorary Oscar for the creation of Mickey Mouse. 1934 was also a landmark year in terms of the Disney history. The famous story goes as follows. In the summer of 1934, Walt Disney gave his animators 50 cents to grab lunch and to meet him in the soundstage afterwards. The men returned sometime later to a dark room with a single spotlight. Walt Disney then proceeded to give them an entire retelling of the Grimm's fairy tale Snow White while acting out every character himself as the animators sat there in awe. Finally, Walt drops the bomb. It's going to be a full-length feature cartoon. But no one's ever done an animated feature before. How can a silly symphony be stretched out to an hour plus and be fully engaging? It just made no sense. And so, those in doubt started calling it Disney's Folly. No worries. Disney was a pioneer in animation. He was the first one to introduce synchronized sound and also the first one to do color. From 1934 onward, Disney and his team kept reinventing new animation techniques on the silly symphonies in preparation for Snow White. The Goddess of Spring was used to test realistic human movement, while the Old Mill was used to test the multiplane camera. The multiplane camera adds parallax to a 2D image to simulate a 3D space. Disney also created the invention of the storyboard. On a corkboard, they would pin scenes, and from here they would rearrange, remove, or quickly alter scenes necessary with great ease. So much so that it's now pretty standard in every Hollywood production. He was a madman. Walt spared no expense on this project, and the money was finally exhausted. By the summer of '37, he was broke.
A big picture would cost $1 million. Well, here's Walt at $1 million and needing another $500,000. And the bank is, needless to say, apprehensive.
I didn't know what I had or what would happen or anything. We had the family fortune. We had everything wrapped up in Snow White. In fact, the banker, I think, was losing more sleep than I was.
His loan requests were starting to be denied until the banker finally requested to see what they're loaning to before he can approve any more loans. Of course, Disney didn't want to, but with no money left, he set up a private screening. The banker, now having seen a rough cut of the film, was finally on board and approved the loan. The final budget for the film was an astounding $1.5 million. Keep in mind, this was for an experimental 83-minute cartoon that has never been attempted. With the money on hand, Disney was able to complete production and unveil his revolutionary movie on time. On December 21st, 1937, the film premiered to the Hollywood elites, who received it with a standing ovation in the Carthay Circle Theater.
Tonight, Hollywood is the scene of a gala event, unusual even for Hollywood. The world premiere of Walt Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Rarely has Hollywood been so agog over the opening of a motion picture. The town's been talking about it for months. Practically the entire movie colony will be at the opening tonight, and you're going along too, as we take you to the Carthay Circle Theater for the premiere of Walt Disney's full-length Technicolor production, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We take you now to the Carthay Circle Theater.
Walt finally achieved his dream. Walt and his team were able to conjure up strong emotions from this animated story. Remember, everyone else was still doing 5-minute long comedy shorts, but this was an entirely new thing. It was brilliant. His 83-minute family fantasy had it all: adventure, romance, and fantasy, all of which were bundled up in this musical package. The general release to the public followed on February 4th, 1938, and they too loved it. The movie grossed $8 million, making it the highest box office performing movie ever. Well, up until Gone with the Wind the following year, but that doesn't count because it's not animated. Since its release, the movie has accumulated 88 years of ratings. Currently, it stands with a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb, a 96 on Metacritic, and a 3.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Additionally, Rotten Tomatoes has the critics holding it at a whopping 97% with the audience at a 78%. Siskel and Ebert reviewed the movie positively for its 50th anniversary, with the only issue they had was Disney deciding to crop the film to be widescreen and not releasing in its original 4:3 ratio.
And last night, seeing it again, probably for the third time in my life, I was just as enthralled. I was sitting there thinking, this is not a kiddie movie. This is not even what you would call a family film. This is a movie.
Yeah, a musical.
And I enjoyed it. But we both love Snow White, even in widescreen. 2 thumbs up from Bashful, that's me, and Grumpy, that's Gene.
It should be of no surprise to learn that the movie received plenty of accolades. In 1938, at the 10th Academy Awards, Snow White's only nomination was for Best Musical Score, but unfortunately lost to 100 Men and a Girl. Not to worry though, because in the following year, Disney received a special award to his exceptional contribution to the motion picture industry for his work on Snow White, which, yeah, he certainly deserved. The Oscar that was presented to him came with 7 additional mini statuettes for each of the 7 dwarves. To celebrate its 50th anniversary, the film was inducted into the U.S. National Film Registry for preservation. Snow White was also honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Among those in attendance was Adriana Caselotti, the voice behind Snow White. With the success of Snow White, Walt was able to pay off his entire debt and build a new studio where production on the next project began. Thank you for sticking around this long. Check out my library of uploads for other movies you might be interested in.